Right now, if the room around you went completely silent, you would probably reach for your phone within 11 seconds. Not because you need it, because you can't stand the quiet. Your brain treats silence like a threat, not a peaceful pause, a warning sign. But the real answer is far stranger than simple boredom or habit. For almost all of human history, true silence never existed. Not once. Not for a single ancestor of yours, ever. So when your brain panics in a quiet room, it isn't malfunctioning. It's reacting to something it was never designed to handle. Something that, until very recently, never happened to a human being. Think about the last time you sat alone with nothing playing. No music, no scrolling, no background chatter. How long before your mind started reaching for something, anything, to fill the space? In 2014, psychologist Timothy Wilson at the University of Virginia ran an experiment that exposed exactly how deep this discomfort runs. He asked people to sit alone in a bare room for 15 minutes, with no phone, no book, nothing to do but think. Many participants found it so unbearable that, when given the option, they chose to give themselves a mild electric shock instead of sitting in silence with their own thoughts. Read that again. People preferred pain over quiet. Wilson's team ran the experiment across hundreds of participants, in different age groups, different settings, even different countries. The result held up almost every time. Silence, for the modern brain, doesn't feel like rest. It feels like exposure. Why would a species evolve to fear something as harmless as quiet? To understand that, you have to go back. Not a few decades, hundreds of thousands of years. Your ancestors never lived in silence. Ever. The forests they slept in were full of insects, wind, distant animal calls. The crackle of a fire kept burning through the night. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying the Juhansi, a hunter-gatherer community in southern Africa, and documented something fascinating about their evenings. After sunset, the group didn't fall quiet. They talked. They told stories about ancestors, rivals, myths, and distant relatives, often late into the night, with the fire crackling beneath every word. There was almost never a moment of true, empty silence in that environment. Sound meant something was happening. Sound meant the group was still alive, still connected, still safe. Silence, on the other hand, meant something else entirely. If the insects suddenly stopped, if the birds went quiet all at once, if the normal hum of the environment cut out without warning, that silence meant a predator was near. It meant something had shifted in the environment enough to make every living thing around you go still. Your ancestors who survived were the ones who noticed that shift immediately. The ones who felt a spike of alertness the second the world went quiet. That alertness didn't disappear. It's still sitting inside your nervous system today, thousands of generations later, firing off the exact same signal in a bedroom or an office that it once fired off in a forest. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If silence once meant danger, what does it mean to a brain that has never actually faced a predator in its entire life? It means something almost worse. It means your brain, with nothing external to focus that old alertness on, turns it inward. In 2013, neuroscientist Imke Kirste and her team at Duke University ran a study on mice exposed to different sound environments, including 2 hours of daily silence. They expected the silence group to show no notable brain changes. Instead, they found something unexpected. The mice exposed to genuine silence showed new cell growth in the hippocampus, the region of the brain deeply tied to memory and emotional processing. Silence, it turned out, wasn't neutral at all. It was doing something active inside the brain, something that noise never allowed to happen. So why does that same silence feel unbearable to you? Because that active process the brain undergoes in true quiet often includes something you'd rather avoid: unprocessed thoughts, buried worries, feelings you've been outrunning all day with notifications, playlists, and background noise. Cardiologist Luciano Bernardi discovered something related in a 2006 study on music, silence, and the nervous system. His team measured participants' physiological responses to different types of music, along with pauses of silence inserted between tracks. The silence, expected to be a neutral gap, actually produced more relaxation in the brain and body than the calming music itself did, based on measurable changes in blood pressure and blood flow to the brain. Silence relaxed the body, but it didn't always feel relaxing to the mind experiencing it. That's the paradox sitting at the center of your discomfort. The same quiet your ancestors needed to detect danger is the same quiet that now forces your brain to sit with everything it usually avoids. Every notification, every autoplay video, every reflexive scroll through a feed you don't even remember opening is doing the same job that a crackling fire once did for a hunter-gatherer camp. It's filling the silence before your brain has to. Except there's a difference. The fire kept people safe from real predators outside. The endless scroll keeps you from something entirely different, not a predator in the grass, a version of yourself you haven't sat with in a while. Have you ever noticed how the hardest moments to be alone with your phone off aren't during exciting events? They're during the ordinary pauses, waiting in line, lying in bed before falling asleep, riding in a car with nothing to say. Those in-between moments are exactly where silence used to do its quiet work on the human brain, and exactly where modern life has trained you to reach for a distraction instead. Your ancestors weren't better at handling silence because they were somehow tougher or more disciplined. They simply never had the option to escape it with a screen. The silence, when it came, forced their brains to process, reflect, and eventually settle, because there was nothing else available to interrupt that process. You have an escape hatch in your pocket at every single moment of your life, and that convenience has quietly rewired your relationship with your own mind. So the next time a room goes silent and your hand automatically reaches for your phone, pause for 1 second before you unlock it. What you're feeling isn't boredom. It's an ancient alarm system, still running the same code it ran for hundreds of thousands of years, misfiring in a world it was never built for. Tonight, when the room around you finally goes quiet, notice what happens in the first 10 seconds. Notice the urge to fill it. Notice how unfamiliar true stillness has become. Because that discomfort isn't a flaw in you. It's a signal inherited from every ancestor who ever survived by noticing when the world went still. The question is no longer whether silence is dangerous. The question is whether you can finally sit inside it long enough to hear what it's actually been trying to tell you all along.